17th anniversary of the Violence Against Women Act, and you've been involved with this for many, many years, for over 20 years. Why did this become so important to you?
You know, it's the single most significant thing I've ever done in my life. I was raised by a dad who talked about the cardinal sin of all sins was the abuse of power. I mean, literally. And he would talk about it. And the most serious abuse of that power is a man to raise his fist to a child or a woman or someone smaller than he is. He can physically dominate. And it's just cowardice. And we were raised that we were to intervene. We were to, if we saw it, we were to say something. We were to literally step in the middle. I mean, that was my dad. And my dad was a gentle, gentle man. And so when I got in the United States Senate, I was on the Judiciary Committee, and I was supposedly, sounds self-serving, the expert on violent crime in America. I spent hundreds of hours of hearings. And when violent crime was really rising, especially when crack cocaine hit the screen in the 70s and early 80s, I held a series of hearings, and there was a startling figure that came out. That violent crime against young men between ages of 16 and 30 actually dropped. But among women, it went up considerably. And I couldn't understand why. And I started holding hearings, and one thing led to another. And so I introduced this legislation called the Violence Against Women Act. But
so what did it do? I mean, how did it change things?
It did a number of things. First of all, it gets you to the end. Domestic violence in America is down 50%. Violence against women is down 50% since the passage of the Violence Against Women Act. Wow. 50%. But what it changed things, it empowered a lot of young women. I was talking with one of your folks backstage saying, you know, when I was young, it was something we didn't talk about. If you know, if your boyfriend slapped you, if your husband banged you around, if you walked in to work with a black guy, so I ran in the door. Yeah. Because it was viewed as not only something that was done to you, women were made, the cultural norm was women were made to feel badly about it. Yeah. I remember there was this really lovely young woman, and her name was Marla. She was a model here in New York City.
I remember that.
Marla Hanson. Yeah. And so I had her come and talk to me, and then I had her testify. And the most startling thing wasn't that this thug, her landlord, hired two guys to slash her face because she wouldn't go out with them. But I asked her, I said, what was the response you got from your women friends? And the response was, well, why were you there? Yeah. Why were you in that bar? The bar was by the way, in the basement, on the first floor of her hotel. So women have culturally in this country been viewed to, I must have done something wrong. I want to make it clear. Never, 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 never does a man have a right to raise his hand to a woman other than self-defense. Never. Never.
Mr. Vice President, now you want to do something very important for young women, particularly between the ages of 16 and 24, because you say the highest examples of rape and sexual assault for these women. What is it that you're...
24.
What are you trying to do to pass a law?
Very, very briefly, all violence against women has gone down in every age category. The one that's been the most stubborn and is the highest now is 16 to 24. Girls in high school and women in college. And so what we're trying to do is take advantage of all the new technology, all the new fora, all the new capabilities we have to empower these young women to understand that there's a way out. We've learned that peer-to-peer help is the most often sought. So I'm not likely, your daughter, God forbid, if it happened, is not likely as likely to go to mom as she is to her best friend. Right. And if she's going to tell even her best friend, she'd rather text it to her than tell it to her. Right. Because and so what we've done is we have, I've gotten over 100 university presidents together, telling them and we've changed the rule. Title IX, everybody thinks that Title IX, women's sports, was much beyond women's sports. We say, hey, look, if the college isn't going out of their way to make it safer for women to be on that campus, they can be held in violation of Title IX and lose their money.
Accountability.
Accountability.
Exactly what we need.